Good morning, Anthony. Here it is Friday, July 26th, 2024. It is 9:42 a.m. Eastern Time when I make this video. Today's video is going to focus on a question. Somebody reached out to me via Instagram and asked me some of my recommendations for prepping while living in an apartment complex. And so, being that I have experience living in an complex, uh, apartment complex, and an apartment building high rise, so I have experience in both those scenarios. In our latter years before leaving Florida, South Florida, for the Charlotte, North Carolina area, we sold our four-bedroom house and we rented for a while. We rented a house for a while, and then we scaled down and moved into an apartment high rise, a new one that opened up in in the city that we were working in. So that city in South Florida is the Davie Plantation area, and for those of you that know that area, you'll know that it's a very busy area. It's a bustling area, and it's about maybe 15 minutes. What is it? South of Fort Lauderdale, not too far from downtown Fort Lauderdale, just a short drive. Um, and so, in moving from the four bedroom, 2.5 bath house, the cookie cutter houses in the suburbs, gated communities, the first thing I had to do was scale down. And what we did was we sold off any furniture, any things that we wanted to get rid of. We either donated, we sold them, etc. Give you an example. I was friends with the local city fire chief in the city where we lived in Weston, Florida, and I reached out to the fire chief and I asked him which one of the fire precincts, firehouses needed weights and accompanying equipment the most, and he gave me one of the fire stations that needed it the most. I reached out to them and I donated all my excess weights, dumbbells. I had a lot of stuff in my garage. And so they came with a rental truck, with a city truck, the fire department did, and they took all my weights and they were very grateful for that donation. But so one of the things that you're going to need to do if you are a prepper and you're in an apartment complex, this person happens to be in the New York City area, and they're in an apartment complex, they said. So I'm thinking, 1, 2, 3 stories versus a high rise. But at any rate, a lot of the things you're going to do are the same. And so one of the things I recommend doing is renting a 24-hour storage unit or units. That's one of the things I did. I rented 2 units. One was mainly for like household stuff that we didn't get rid of and that we had excess abundance of and could not fit in the apartment. I rented and kept there until we figured out what we were going to do with it. Were we going to take it with us when we moved to Charlotte? Were we going to donate it, get rid of it, etc.? So, like a staging area, in essence. And then the second unit was for being that I was a prepper and had a lot of gear. All my excess gear, I had, excess food storage items, totes, bins full of stuff. That went into the second storage unit, and I had access to those units. It was a 24/7 access. So that's one of the things you might want to consider living in an apartment complex. You need a place to store excess things and then emergency items that, let's say your apartment got overrun or you had to leave, you could always go to the storage unit, get stuff, bring it to a friend's house, a parent's house, a relative's house, etc. I was fortunate enough to work at a large university, my wife and I, close by. So the apartment complex was here. Our workplace was probably about a mile, a little less than a mile away. And then the storage unit was right next to the university that I rented. So one of the things working on a large university is I had access. I had gym access, and I had locker access. So I had a big locker rental that I used to, change and shower and stuff like that. And so I had a few prepping items in that locker. And then in my office area, we had a bin of lockers that were assigned to us. And I was fortunate enough to have, I think, 3 lockers. They were good sized lockers with locks on that I put on there. And in those lockers, I had other prepping items. I had some food items, some storage, some clothing, backup clothing, toiletries. A small version of like a bug out bag was in those lockers. First aid, stuff like that. And I always had access to those as well because I helped run the hurricane prep on the campus. So I always had 24-hour access to the campus, especially during hurricanes. So I was, it was, looked upon us to keep items stored for ourselves if we had to stay on campus during a hurricane, and we had to do that. We had to stay overnight on campus several times during the hurricane, and our family was allowed to come with us to our office area, which was like a hardened area. So I had some access. You might not have that, but think about where you work. What can you keep in your office, under your desk, maybe in a bag, in a tote, in a locker, at a gym, a 24-hour gym where you have a locker? Think out. You have to learn to think out of the box. So, vehicle. Do you have I had a van. I sold my SUV and bought my van, which I have now. Since then, in my van, I had several items stored all the time, which was like a mini RV bug out vehicle. I had always items stored in the van for emergencies. Let's put it that way. So your vehicle, you want items stored in your vehicle, and that went to the point where I even bought one of those Yakima roof bins that lock. I had that on my van with some items in it, locked up. You may not be able to do that like in the city in regards to like theft or stuff like that. It may be raising a red flag, but inside your vehicle, it's definitely easy. If your windows are darkened or blackened out, hide a bug out bag or some items in a tote that you have in the event that you had to leave the apartment. And then offload stuff to friends, relatives. You might want to have a small tote, 3M tote of items at a friend's house, nearby, a relative, etc. A relative that's in the city or suburbs, you want to offload. Hey, can I keep such and such in your closet or in your attic, and put a smaller version of whatever. And I always used the 10 C's of survival when building a bug out bag or a good bag, get out of Dodge bag, they call it. It's not called that very often, but I call it a good bag. A bag I grab and get out of Dodge. I get in my vehicle and I'm gone. Cutting tool. So this is part of the 10 C's. So a knife, cutting tool, combustion device, a lighter, Bic lighters, cheap, reliable, etc., matches, anything to start a fire, and then a backup method, a fire steel, something like that, and then some tinder that catches easy. Cover or shelter. Think tarp, a small one-person tent, etc. A container. Think, Nalgene bottles, preferably stainless steel Nalgene that you could double as a water collection device, and maybe even to heat up water in the Nalgene bottle that is single-walled and stainless steel and or something to that effect. Cordage, rope, twine, 550 cord, something like that. A good 50-foot section, let's call it that. A candling device, so that includes candles that you light, maybe a safety candle that you could light and that's stored in a little lantern, candle lantern, and that also equates to flashlights, headlamps, etc. Candling device. Cotton material, bandana, something like that. Cargo tape, again, Gorilla tape, masking tape, 100-mile-an-hour tape, electrical tape, something like that, and then maybe tape that you use to hold bandages down. So think of that. This is going to go in your kits. Every kit that you make, these items go in, or a version of these items. A compass, pretty self-explanatory. All your compasses will show you magnetic north and give you a general sense of direction. So a good compass. And you can go on Amazon and pick up that. And then a canvas needle for sewing, something like that. A sail needle, they call it. I think it's SAIL, sail needle. And that goes for, you could use your twine or your cordage to sew something up. So something like that. Those are the 10 C's of survival. And then I would go a step further and add any self-defense items. If you have a pistol permit, you want that pistol with some spare ammo on your person or in something that you can grab and go with and take with you in your... So these are all things that can be kept in your apartment and also on off-site locations, the 10 C's of survival. In the apartment itself, you want organization. I would walk Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Lowe's, the Container Store if you have one near you. Walk through the store and look for storage items that can streamline your apartment, and you could keep items in and store it in cabinets, under a bed, in a spare bathroom. We had a 2-bedroom apartment, but my daughter had the other room. But one of the agreements was with her living with us that I had to use her room as a staging area for prepping items. So we kind of came to that agreement, and she had several totes in there and 5-gallon buckets with items in it that I kept in the apartment. So I utilized every square inch of that apartment that I could via storage items that I found in those stores that I just mentioned. So organization is key. Security. Both apartments, the high-rise, which was a first-floor apartment with like a little fenced-in terrace, not a fire escape, but a patio area. Security was key. So we had an alarms company come in and activate the alarm. So the apartment was alarmed, both the high-rise one and the garden apartment that we had, which was a second-floor unit. They were both alarmed, and then I went ahead and I bought a sliding door protection, the arm that comes down for the sliding door as added protection, and then those little door jammers that go under the doorknob and secure to the floor. I think, I forget who makes those, but you could get them in Home Depot, Target. You could get them online. It's like a buddy bar. It goes under the doorknob, and it prevents somebody from like kicking in or shouldering in your apartment door easily. It'll give you some time. Having a pet gives you notice also. We had always had the dogs, so they were kind of an alarm system for us. On my patio and porch, we weren't allowed to have propane, but were allowed to have electric, so I had an electric George Foreman grill outside. But in the event of an emergency, you might want to have something you can cook off of, propane stoves, small propane stoves with the canisters to cook outside on your deck, on your porch or fire escape. You got to have those. They run on the little cylinders, the green ones, or the the spray paint can size cylinders. You definitely want one of those stoves to have in your apartment. They asked, this person that reached out to me asked about a generator. There's pros and cons with a generator. Yes, I would advise having one, but in a short-term SHTF where power is going to come back on, or kind of there's not going to be a total without rule of law scenario, you could run a generator on your patio. Make sure it's ventilated out so none of those fumes are coming into the apartment. But a generator is a double-edged sword. It can draw unwanted people to your apartment complex. Hey, that person on the second floor, it's got a generator, which means they might have other stuff in their apartment worth stealing or asking them to share with us. So keep that in mind with a generator. If you're living by yourself and you don't have anyone else to have backup and help protect your items, keep that in mind with a generator. And if you get one, get a small one, that you could carry. You could throw in your vehicle and get out if you have like a 1 gallon one. One of the Generacs, the Hondas, and then there's some at the big box stores that they might have as well. Again, I mentioned self-defense. You definitely want, if you can, have a firearm. Definitely. If you're able to have a pistol, I would suggest a long gun, maybe like a .22 rifle, a shotgun, and some type of AR, AK version rifle, or a rifle that handles your pistol ammo as well, like a carbine that uses, like if you have a Glock 19, a Kel-Tec Sub 2000 that takes the Glock mags that you can interchange, and then have that interchangeable. So now you have something that you could reach out a little farther with in a carbine rifle. First aid, definitely want mini first aid kits a main first aid kit in the apartment, mini ones in your vehicle, at your place of work, in your storage location. Maybe fill a 5-gallon bucket with all kinds of first aid items, bandages. When you go to the store, buy bandages, Band-Aids, alcohol, peroxide, buy some tourniquets, good quality, cat tourniquets, rat tourniquets, and keep them also available, and everything that goes along with first aid. Communications, I always had something like this, just a little shoulder bag. This has radios in it, antennas, how-to manuals for my comms gear, and it's always ready to go. So in your apartment, you could have something like this. You could take to and from your vehicle to your place of work, and it's always got enough radio communications for at least 2 people to have. And so I'll do a separate video on that. Escape routes have in the city. How do I get out? If I have to leave my apartment, which routes am I going to take to get out and get to, a relative's, a friend's house, or to a wooded area, somewhere safe, a state park, somewhere where you could go and get a breather, get your act together, and then figure out your next move. With maps highlighted, preferably, on the routes you're going to take to get there, because your cell phone may not be working with your maps and GPS. I just had that happen to me not too long ago. Again, any backpack, shoulder bag, gym bag, you can convert to a good bag, a get out of Dodge bag. So think about the 10 C's of survival and utilizing a bag like that. As far as food and water in your apartment, you have to get creative. Rice, beans, canned goods. I like Dinty Moore beef stews and chicken and dumplings. Those are great go-tos. You could store tons of those in an apartment, hide them under bed, in flat totes under beds, in cabinets, in the bathroom. Wherever you have excess room, you're going to want to put food and water. Preferably food that you need very little prep to. Canned goods you don't have to cook. You could eat them warm or cold. Rice you have to cook, but also buy rice in those little bags, like microwave bags that are ready to eat, that you could dump inside the canned soups and increase the calories. Canned tunas are a go-to. I think today on Amazon, Portofino brand yellowfin tuna is $25.99 for a case of 12, which is a steal. That's in olive oil. I'd have at least 100 cans of tuna in my apartment if I could, with another 100 cans of Dinty Moore stew, and then some rice, and then whatever else that you eat. Store what you eat, but think things that you're not going to have to cook long term. And then have those items in your vehicle, in your storage unit, and at your place of work in smaller versions. A small 3M tote filled with that stuff in your office under your desk can be a lifesaver if you had to bug out and get to your office from your apartment. Or if you were stranded at your office and couldn't make it to your apartment, you've got smaller versions of these items with you um, at those locations, including your storage unit where you can store extra ammo and heavier items and stuff you can't fit in your apartment. Um, but make sure that storage unit you're able to get to with 24-hour access. If the power's down, how do I get inside of it? If it's fenced in, most of them are fenced in with barbed wire. You know, do you have a fence cutter if you had to cut through the fence to get access to your goods? Think about that. I keep a little Kinepix cutter, hand cutter, that'll cut through chain link fence in one of my bug out bags in my vehicle, and I can cut right through the chain link fence with that. So think outside the box in those items. As far as water goes, in an apartment complex, if you do have running water, you're good, but I would always have as many gallons of water as you can store in your apartment as feasibly possible. Have on hand in case the water goes down and sewage goes down. With that, also, as far as filtration, purification, I'd recommend two key items to invest in. One of them's the Lifesaver Jerry Can. I know it's around $300, but that's going to give you, with that one filter that it comes with, 20,000 liters of water that's filtered, also including bacteria and viruses. The only thing it's not going to take out is heavy metals and things of that nature, which nothing really will do that. But it's going to make most water that you collect from a local pond, stream, wherever, safe to drink and or wash with. And that Lifesaver Jerry Can, you get the little shower attachment. You could rinse off dishes, rinse off your hair, keep your hygiene good in the event you had to stay in your apartment in a grid down situation for an extended time without running water. So Lifesaver Jerry Can, invest the money, do anything you can to buy that unit. It's $300 right now. It could go up to $1,000 in a grid down. It'll be a huge lifesaver for you, hence the name Lifesaver Jerry Can. I have two of them, and I'm going to invest in a third. So that's how much I think they are worth it. Also, if you can invest in a Grail, a Grail is a water bottle size filtration system. It comes in two sizes, a 24 ounce and a 16 ounce. It depends on the size of your bag, but either one of those, they filter the same way. You scoop water into it or collect it and then put the water in it, press it down. The filtration system is going to do the same thing that the Lifesaver Jerry Can does, but only now in a backpack version. So if you were out in the getting from point A to point B and you had to collect water, you want that. So you want those two things in your apartment, definitely. I would also have some extra bleach on hand with a booklet and books on how to process water. Prepping books. Have them written prepping books or ones you could download on your computer and look at in the event of an emergency in your apartment. And so that's key, is water purification and sanitation. I would also make this comment that I know a lot of people don't think about it, but having a spare camping type toilet or 5-gallon bucket with collection bags and ways to process waste. If you were stuck in your apartment and the sewage system was down, all those toilet bowls are going to back up. So now what are you going to do? Where are you going to go, number one and number two? Okay, yeah, you could go outside, but is it safe to walk outside your apartment in a grid down to go to the bathroom? So you got to think of that. Having something in your apartment like a camping toilet, Thetford toilet, just go on Amazon, type in RV, portable RV toilets, camping toilets. and you'll see for $120 or under $200, you could get a really good unit that holds 4 gallons of water, has a waste collection tank, uh, keeps the smell down, and you sit on it, and it's just like a home toilet. I would have invest something like that. Whether you keep it at work, in the storage unit, at your apartment, you have to be able to get it at a moment's notice. Now, on my YouTube channel, I have tons of videos. If you go down, over the next couple of days, I'll try to find some of my older videos on apartment prepping and post them. You also want, in an apartment, an escape route that you have to make if you had to make it on foot. Where you're going to go, how you're going to get there, the route you're going to take, and then practice doing it with your good bag on your back. Your get out of Dodge bag, your bug out bag, whatever you want to call it, on your back. Mine was when we were living in the apartment in Plantation. I was fortunate enough to have a canal with a sidewalk most of the way that went 8 miles. I think it was almost 9 miles, all the way to a state park in like a real wooded area along the Everglades. So I hiked that with my bag on, and I have video on this. I hiked it in the high humid temperatures to make sure, A, what was along that route that could be dangerous, B, where would I stop along that route to rest, make a meal, do something, get water in the canal, whatever I had to do, and then where I was going to go in the state park once I got there. So I had all that rehearsed and practiced prior, so if my apartment did go down, I could get there on foot and then live to fight another day. So these are some of the things you have to think about in an apartment. The key is organization. Look around your apartment, throw out stuff you don't need, buy storage bins. Anywhere you could figure out how to store stuff, store it, especially life-saving items like the 10 C's that I mentioned, and then food and water items, and hygiene. Don't forget hygiene. Soap, liquid soaps, anything for hygiene, toothbrush, toothpaste, Listerine, peroxide, alcohol. Those things are cheap. Buy them and store them, because you're going to need those things in a grid down, especially if water is down. It'll be key to keep yourself clean, especially under your arms, in between your legs, your butt, your feet. All that has to be kept clean in the event you didn't have running water. And that's where the Lifesaver jerry can comes in, because you can collect water and then spray it on yourself, sponge bath yourself, whatever you have to do. Heat some water up on the stove and wash yourself. So I hope this video helps. I know I went on for about 30 minutes, 28 minutes already. I could go on for hours, but again, I did it in a high rise, and then know some of your neighbors. Find out who in the building or in your garden apartment or your apartment complex is kind of like the same mindset, if you will. That way, you may have some allies in the event of you have some community in the event of an emergency. And then also keep in mind and make a list of troublemakers in the apartment complex. Write it down, write their license plates down, try to find out who they are, where they're from, who they hang out with, because you're going to have unsavory characters go ballistic in a grid down situation, and they may target you. That's why I said, you got to be careful with a generator. I would definitely have, in backup to a gas generator, one of the Bluettis or electric generators. They're cheap now, or a lot cheaper now. Jackery, Bluetti, there's so many brands. And then a small solar panel to put out during the day to help charge that. Or thin solar film, a solar panel you could hang on your balcony and then pull in, when the sun goes in. But have that as a backup just to recharge, your headlamp, your flashlights, and things like that. So, again, hope this video helps. Take care, stay ready, and then for those of you that are watching that live in apartments, write down some more tips for people of things that I probably forgot to cover. Okay? Thanks for watching. Take care. Stay ready. Anthony signing off.